Well, I was talking on the abstraction, which is basically um, focusing on the characteristics that exist in general of a particular item, for example, all pants, instead of trying to find out, trying to study a pen, a particular pen, and its specific characteristics. So, what we study is usually trying to find general rules that are true for as many as at largest possible extent possible. Of course, I mean science's limit is, for example, social science is only limited to the humans, and biology is only limited to the living beings. And of course, in some cases, you can only focus on particular uh, animals in biology, for example. Um, but again, I mean, generalization is the aim of science, finding general rules, general uh, models that have representation power as much as possible. And we study the general. We don't study a specific particular animal. For example, if we are doing, if we are biologists, and lack of emotion. I mean, the emotions, the feelings are not in it, and hardness. I mean, and hardness means basically you describe things as it is. I mean, and you um, uh, in a way. I mean, um, well, hardness concept is kind of a more general concept which might have multiple meanings. One meaning might be, for example, um, scientific truths are true under, well, all conditions. I mean, of course, certain statements are stated, like, for example, I mean, if this and this happens, this will follow. Uh, but basically, if as long as the condition happens, what will follow, and other conditions, other aspects, especially whether or uh, whether or not we like that outcome, doesn't affect it's the outcome itself. So the outcome is hard. The truth of science are hard, not changeable to as a result of feelings of people, or feelings of people, or the wishes of the people in society. In same way, I mean, science is also hard. I mean, the truths are not shaped according to the wills, but actually according to the reality. Um, Science, scientific truths, scientific outcomes cannot be shaped according to what we would like them to be. Uh, in that sense, they are also hard. I mean, they are unmovable. Un, uh, they can, you cannot change their shape, change their structure according to the you wish. I mean, they are hard. You take that truth, and you can do with that truth whatever you want. Um, but the question of feminist economics in general, and Nelson in particular, was when we look to all of these characteristics of science. I mean, this is how we define science. How we define science should be scientific knowledge, should be. Um, and all of these characteristics are also considered as the masculine characteristics. And here, actually, we might pause a little bit and look to describe what masculine characteristics is. You are living in a society, 21st society. I mean, in which these masculine characteristics are questioned increasingly. With which I mean, um, people ask whether a man, or uh, well, males in general should have particular type of, let's say, character traits. So should there be a character trait that should be common in all males, or at least, we can describe as a typical male characteristics, and then describe the males without those characteristics as an anomaly. The main point is the main point Nelson claims, at least, and that's 1995, which is actually 2 decades before, more than 2 decades before. Whether or not we like it, there is a male culture. There is a male culture, and which means actually a culture that exists, which claims to represent the male characteristics, basically, and not all males, but most of the males at least try to adjust themselves to that culture, because education they got from family to the school to the media actually teach them this is how a man should be. So man should be more objective, basically try to look to the general truths. It should not have that much emotions. I mean, it might have emotions, but those emotions should not affect the decisions and should be hidden, not shown. And the decisions should be based on the truth. They should be hard in a way. I mean, if something is what they need to do, they should do it, independent of their environment, the wishes of their environment. So they should be hard in that sense. They should be better in mathematics because they are better in, well, looking this, understanding this objective truths that exist in general sense. In that sense, they do abstraction. They understand the general characteristics of the general characteristics better. They try to understand the characteristics that exist in all men, all companies, for example, or all cars, for example, and they separate themselves from the rest of the people, which means their wishes, their characteristics, there should be kind of independent of the society around them. It's theirs, and the society should not influence it. And logical consistency. I mean, that might be. No, actually, that should be also true for females or women. But we might say also logical consistency. I mean, the ability to not contradict it with itself is also kind of more male characteristics. I mean, we might say that it was expected more from the man than from women in 90s. 90s is also time when I was growing up. So I can say that. Well, and as opposed to that, there are also feminine characteristics, which is part of the feminine culture. First, connectedness. I mean, women are expected to know. For example, they are more expected to know all the connections in the family, the relatives, neighbors, get know each other, build connections, maintain those connections. That's something that is expected from the woman, not from the man, but the woman, basically. Even, I mean, if you think secretaries who actually maintain connections with the managers are women, because they are the ones who keep the connections for the managers. Well, intuitive understanding, which means actually you understand kind of without proving it. I mean, you don't actually understand, have actual facts um, which can prove that what you perceive as truth, but you kind of understand from certain science. I mean, which doesn't completely prove what you understand or what you feel as truth. Um, Cooperation. Women are more expected to cooperate with, especially uh, especially in their actual work. For example, uh, when they when they look for the when they basically manage the household, they are expected to cooperate with more with each other. And here I mean cooperation as the not cooperation done through the market forces like hiring labor power of someone, but more like altruistic cooperation. So women are expected to respond to needs of other people, including other women, more than men, or at least they were more. To some extent, I think those cultures are still there. They are weaker, and people object to them more, but they are still there in a way. And you can still see those expectations, I mean, from the people, in my opinion. Uh, Qualitative analysis, I mean, analyzing something without numbers, analyzing something beyond numbers, maybe, I mean, um, uh, aspects of certain person or certain element. For example, when you buy furniture, you see aspects, color matches, the size, the positions. I mean, certain aspects that are not described. It's not that are not possible to describe with the numbers, basically. And basically, I mean, those detailed, more detailed descriptions are more attributed to women. For example, that's why in about child education, they understand the specific child better than man, you might claim. Their needs, the needs of the child better than man. And here we come concreteness. Concreteness is basically the opposite of the abstraction. You focus on this particular pen and describe this particular pen, the characteristic of this pen specifically. So women are more were expected more specialized on the particular single being. I mean, don't generalize the characteristics, but they are better in understanding specific beings, specific characteristics, specific structure, or specific, let's say, preferences of uh, individual item or individual being, individual person. Um, they are more emotional. They understand emotions more. They have their own emotions are more in the picture, and that emotion is kind of affect their behavior, decision making. They are closer to nature, and they are softer. Softer means more easy to influence. You are able to um, basically the feelings are expected to change their behavior more. For example, I mean, and this is what you expect. Actually, all of these things are not critique of feminine culture. They were what was expected from the feminine culture. I mean, think about this. For example, if a child cries and their children was or their son is, for example, crying, if a father changes the decision or at least stays more cool, not affected by this crying child, uh, well, that is what is expected. That was what was expected from the man. But if the mother of the child does the same thing, doesn't do anything, stands cool. Well, this was not what was expected from the woman. Woman was more expected to react to this child that's crying, maybe consider changing the previous decision made by herself. So in that sense, women were expected to be more soft. So the questions are, to what extent we can say these the male characteristics we have mentioned previously affect science, and if they do, what should we do about that? And that's the topic of the next video.